Welcome back to Learn SKN, and today we are going to be looking at the January 2016 paper 2 for Principles of Business. So that's January 2016 paper 2, Principles of Business. So let's just jump right into the first question, and the first question asks us to define each of the following terms. We have to define each of the following terms, and we're looking at the economic systems in this case. So number one, it says traditional economic system. What is it? 2 marks. So the traditional economic system, or another name for it is the subsistence economic system, is the economic system where you provide basically for yourself and your family. So you're subsisting, you're providing just enough stuff, goods for yourself and your family for their survival. And it normally centers around agriculture or fishing or those kind of things. So that's a traditional economic system. As you can see here, the subsistence or the traditional economies direct satisfaction of needs and wants. So you do it yourself. Caribbean economies operating this way until 500 years ago, when you had the Amerindians and the Caribbean Arawaks and those peoples, and then you have very few subsistence economies survive today. So the definition for that one would be the system that is based on where you provide for yourself and your family for your survival, and is normally derived from the agri soil, fishing, hunting, that kind of thing. Alright, so here we have our next answer here. In these traditional systems, individual families or local communities, such as the Amerindian tribes, try to produce everything they needed for survival for themselves using tools, natural resources, and skills they had available. Traditional economic systems were therefore usually dependent on agriculture, fishing, or hunting, and any surplus would normally be shared out among family or the community. So this would be exchanged for other goods, and that would be the barter system. So that's the traditional system where you're doing it just for your survival, for your family, and you normally engage in agricultural related activities, and bartering is the main form of exchange. Number 1, part 2. Again, 2 marks. The planned economy, on the other hand, we have the planned economy or the planned economic system. Another name for that system would be the command economy, or another name for that would be authoritarian economic system. So in the planned economy, the government is the one who controls all economic activities. So the government controls all economic activities in the planned economic system. So operate on a government plan. The government makes all the major decisions, and you don't really have much of a say. Like private individuals don't have much of a say in any economic activity under the planned or the command economy. So those are the main definitions. It is on a government plan, and it is the government or the authority. They are the ones who conduct all or make all economic decisions. So that's the main definition of the command or planned economy. State 2 advantages and of the mixed economic system. 2 advantages of the mixed economic system, and for that one, we'll go right back to the slides. For the mixed economic system, 2 advantages, and you have a whole bunch to choose from here. 1, combines the strong points of the other systems, which means it's a combination of all the other systems to take the strengths from the other economic systems, like the capitalists and the command. Combines personal freedom and respect for the law. Public sector protects poor and the vulnerable. So the public sector, because it has both private and public sector, everything is not just about money. So the government actually helps to protect the poor. So that's one key advantage there. Also, private sector stimulates choice and competition. So because of the freedom that the private sector has, you have a lot of competition, and so therefore a lot of choices within that economy. And both sectors are partners. So those are some advantages of the mixed economic system based on this question right here. State 2 advantage of the mixed economic system. And the textbook would have some more examples of these systems. One such advantage that is stated in the book is this one that says the government is actively involved in putting regulations in place to protect the natural environment as well as its people. So because in the command, it's strictly the government in charge. So you can't do nothing about that. So that's like Cuba, North Korea, those places. And you see how they are. But in the mix, you have both the government and the private sector combining to, make it a more rounded economic system. All right, the next question here. Now you have to state 2 disadvantages of said mixed economic system. So 2 disadvantages, we have them a bunch here. The public sector may lack funding to provide services, so the government might not have enough money to provide all the services necessary, so that's a bad thing. The public sector may be inefficient. So again, the government system might be inefficient, and anybody who go and conduct business with government know this. They are very inefficient. Next disadvantage, private sector may evade taxes and regulations. And the next one is corruption may damage the relationship between public and private sector. So a lot of corruption occurs within the private sector. Next question, we're moving on this one. These are just the warm-up one. These are the easy ones. All right, C, outline 3 ways in which a business could fulfill its role to the government. All right, so C says outline 3 ways in which a business could fulfill its role to the government. And for this one, you don't really need any textbook answers. They're common sense answers. Like, for example, the first one I would give you is, of course, you should pay your taxes. As a business, you should pay your taxes. So paying your taxes on time and the right amount is one way in which a business could fulfill its role to the government. You pay the government the taxes and everything good. That's one. 2, the laws. You have to follow and abide by the laws as a business, whether it is the labor laws, environmental laws, whatever. You have to abide by the laws. So for example, you don't want to overwork your people, you don't want to overwork your employees and not pay them adequately. So therefore, you want to be paying your workers properly. So therefore, you have to obey the laws. So obeying the laws, that's one. You have to pay your taxes, that's 2. And of course, you have to look after your employees. So you don't want them to be working in an environment that is detrimental to their health. So you must have to be up to code, safety regulations and stuff like that. So of course you want to have a good working environment for your employees. So that's 3. 4, you have to treat your customers. You have to treat your customers nice. All right. So you have to make sure you take care of your customers and you protect your customers, because if you don't, of course, they might sue you and that might end up in the government's hands. So you don't want that. So you want to make sure that you provide good, reasonable products, safe products for your customers. You don't gouge out your customers with pricing. So you have to look after your customers. So those are 4 ways in which the business could fulfill its role to the government. So again, pay your taxes. 2, follow the laws. 3, look out for your workers. 4, look after your customers. So those are, you expound on that, and that should give you your homework marks. Is that 6 marks. So you go to town on this question here, and that should give you 6 marks. Very commonsensical, so you don't really have to hurt your head too much. And as you can see, it's 6 marks. So therefore, do not list, take up the people's line, fill them in. So it's 6 marks. So it's 2 marks for each point. So if you say taxes, so you talk about paying the taxes on time, government need taxes to run the country, etc., etc. So you talk about the importance of taxes to the country and the government. So that's where the business should pay the taxes. If you're talking about laws, you're talking about the labor laws, you talk about safety laws, whatever. So and expound on those things. If you're talking about the work environment, you talk about making sure that it's safe for the workers to work, and expound on that, get you 2 marks. If you're talking about the customers, of course you don't want to gouge out either the customers. You talk about pricing, you talk about the environment that they conduct their business, those kind of things. So here are some roles of the government, and so you can just flip it, and of course the government has to protect the customers, so therefore you flip it and say the business should protect the customers so that the government don't have to crack down on them. Alright, next one. We have D. What does this say? Explain one way in which each of the following stakeholders contributes to the success of a business. So first and foremost, what is a stakeholder? Stakeholders are all those parties, those entities that would be affected by the business, be affected by the operation of the business, whether it is the employers, the employee, the government, the community. All those are stakeholders. And so business owners, employees. Again, another common sense question here. They say 1, so you have to explain it with all the fill the lines. So you go to town on it. For example, One way, the business owners, of course, you have to invest in the business. Now you have to actually go and seek funds, monies to invest in the business so that the business can prosper. You don't want to be an owner who takes all the money from the business, the profit, and you squander that money. No, you have to reinvest in the business so that the business can go on and go on. You don't want to squander the money, waste the money. So that's one obvious answer. You have to invest in their business. And next one, of course, would be they should treat the customers and the employees right. You treat the employees right. So you make sure they have a good working environment. You make sure their pay is appropriate for their qualifications. You just make them feel good about working there. Because if your workers are happy, then your business would be successful. So that's the next one right there. So you can even go as far as say that they have to make sure that the consumers have a nice place to conduct business in, so that you can help the business to succeed, because you don't want to be conducting business in a ramshackle old place. You don't want that. And if, as the owner, you have to situate that the environment is appropriate and adequate for the transaction of business. So that's three I just gave you right here. They only asked for one. So I gave you that they have to reinvest funds into the business. They have to treat the customers right and treat the workers right. And why I say treat right, I mean communicate effectively with your workers, train your workers, make sure the working environment is nice, that kind of stuff. So those are common sense answers you can use for that one. And of course, if you want to get textbooky, right here in the textbook, you see internal stakeholders, owners as shareholders, and they have two roles that they have to make sure the business succeed. And as I said before, provide financial capital to invest and operate the business, and two, to ensure managers are fulfilling the objectives of the business and are using resources efficiently, right? So all those are ways in which the business owner can ensure the success of their business. Then we have the employees. Again, the employees. Again, another, just use. One thing about POB is that you don't have to be too textbook. You just use your head and you'll be able to pass it with flying colors. So the employees. Now, how can the employees help to lead to the success of the business? And of course, if you're a happy employee, you want the business to succeed. One way, of course, is to don't shortchange the business. You do what you're paid to do. You do your work that you're paid to do in the best way you can do it. So you don't want to take shortcuts. You don't want to, dig out the eyes of the boss, because the boss might think that you didn't work any overtime and you didn't, and you take the piss still. Be honest. Be honest. Be trustworthy. Be diligent. Work hard, and of course you have to basically own the business. Be a part of the business. Like, you don't say them versus us. You identify with the business, and so therefore you do your best to help it to succeed. You put in your all into that business. So again, the textbook has it here. Employees, you have to perform duties to ensure that the business continues to maximize profit and that your job as an employer remains secure. So you don't want to be stealing from the company. You don't want to be, bring confusion to the company. So, you just do what you have to do, 110% if you want to, and be happy doing it so that the company can maximize profit, because that would in turn help to secure your job. Alright, so that's it for number one. 20 easy marks just like that. And of course, the first one is always going to be one of the easiest questions out there. So 20 easy marks, you kill it, that's a pass right there. Question number 2. Define the term teamwork. Very simple, 2 marks for this one. Define the term teamwork. So let's just jump to the textbook. Alright, teamwork. Teamwork involves dividing up the workforce into an organization into small teams of employees and giving them the responsibility for planning and organizing their areas of work. So that's basically the definition of teamwork. 2 or more persons working together to achieve a set goal, a set mission, a like mission or a like goal. Right, so that's basically the definition of teamwork. 2 or more persons in a business working together to achieve a specific task, a specific goal. So they say again, teamwork involves dividing up the workforce in an organization into small teams of employees and giving them the responsibility for planning and organizing their areas of work. Teamwork. Now, part 2, for 4 marks, they're asking us to state 2 advantages and 2 disadvantages of teamwork within an organization. So let's go. Advantages. This one is clear. You don't even have to use a textbook for it, but just for those who want, let's go. Teamwork. Advantages of teamwork. It builds a sense of camaraderie and belonging, which motivates employees. So that's one advantage of teamwork. It builds a sense of camaraderie and belonging, which motivates employees. So what I'm simply saying is that teamwork causes employees to feel a part of the group, a part of the company, and therefore they are motivated to do work for that company. And next one, there is a shared responsibility, so individuals may feel less burden on the job. So our next one is that because we're working as a team, you don't have to shoulder all responsibility alone, so you don't feel as burdened. You know, sometimes when you have a lot of things to do and you feel overwhelmed and overburdened, no. You just teamwork makes the dream work, so you divide into teams, so you as a person have less to do because individual responsibility is shared across the team. And next one, better decisions may be made through group discussions. Of course, if it's just one point of view, one person, you just have one set point of view. But if you have multiple people, a team, they have different opinions, different views, and they can come together to make a better decision overall. And next advantage, the quality of output may improve significantly through group effort. Next one, employees are provided with the opportunity to learn from each other, shared learning. Now look at the disadvantages of teamwork. 1, forming effective teams can be time consuming. Of course, anybody who study in groups know these things. When you go in a group, sometimes you kill time just talking and all kind of different this and that, and before you look, time gone. 2, conflict may arise within and between teams, and even within the team itself. You might have people who are butting heads because everybody have different points of views. So conflict may arise within the team itself or within teams within the organization. So conflict. 3, the decision making process may be slow. Again, it's democratic, so therefore everybody might have a say, might have an opinion, a view, and that might take time based on the size of the team. And 4, some team members may not pull their weight. You know, you have the freeloader, the free rider, which results in others being unfairly burdened. So those are disadvantages of teams, and those are advantages of teams. All right, of teamwork. So that's the answer for that one. 4 easy marks. You kill that, you're good to go. Next one. B. Number 2B. Outline 2 examples that show how teamwork is used at a school or in a workplace. Now this one. This is an opinion, a view. So this one, I don't really have to answer this one because your opinion might be different to what I might see, because your experience would be different to my experience. But for example, in a school, you will have a whole management team, and the management team would be the ones who basically decide what happens within the school. So you might have the year heads or the block heads, the block reps, you have the principal, the vice principal, all of them come together as a team. And they are the ones who decide, when the school might have this activity, that activity, sport day, that kind of stuff. So that's an easy example to see. In the workplace, if you are an adult and you're working, you should know how this goes. Within the workplace, you might have subcommittees to carry out certain activities. Like, for example, the holiday season just went by, and I'm pretty sure they might have had a team to conduct the Christmas party or the Christmas affairs and stuff like that. So this one is an open-ended one. Anybody, based on your experience, you can answer this one rather easily. Alright, so Part C asks, list 4 important elements in the communication process. 4 important elements in the communication process. And of course, you need to know that there are different ways of communicating. You have the 2-way, you have 1-way. But elements. Now, based on the textbook, you can get them from the textbook. Elements. First, you have, of course, the sender. That's one element. That's the sender. Then you have the sender would encode, would encode the message. So encoding is the next one. So the sender would encode, and of course the message, which is the 3rd element. So you have the sender gonna encode the message, so that's 3. Then it's transmitted via whatever channel. So that's the next one. The method, the means, the communication channel. And then it is transmitted to the receiver. So that's the next element in the communication process. The receiver, who would then decode what the message might have said. And so that's it. But then you can have a reverse channel. You can have feedback now, where the receiver would decode whatever the message was and then send feedback now to the initial sender. So those are the elements of the communication process. You have the sender, then you have the decoding of the message, then you have the message, of course. Sorry, the encoding of the message, then you have the decoding by the receiver, and then the receiver would in turn show some feedback if they wish to do so. So those are the elements: sender, receiver, message itself, the channel, the communication channel, the receiver, encoding and decoding. So you can choose from any of those. God just asks you to list the important elements of the communication process. 4 marks. 1, 2, 3, 4, you're done. Next one. Using an example, outline one strategy for effective communication between each of the following groups: teacher and students, and then you have teacher and parents. Now, these things can be kind of subjective, so it's just what you deem to be effective. Alright, so let's look at some examples of communication strategies. So you have a number of communication methods. You have oral, you have written, you have visual. So for teacher to student, clearly you would want basically a combination of any of those, or if you were to choose one, then of course you'll have your oral, which is, and that can incorporate face to face, of course. So you want to be in the classroom talking to the student, and that's more effective than, you know, a phone call or something like that. So you can have oral, or you can have visual, where you use chats, videos, and those things to show the students what you want them to learn. So in this, for this question here, using an example, outline one strategy for effective communication between each of the following groups. So you can use an example. For example, you can use an example such as for teacher and student, where the teacher might want to write notes on the board. So of course that would be, and then have the children read the notes and see if they understand what's on the board. So that could be oral, and of course you have written. So it's a combination right there. You can also have visual, where the teacher can use PowerPoint to teach their lessons, and then have the students respond to whatever is on the board. So you can choose. Let's say, using an example, you can choose, and as long as you explain it properly, then you should get your marks for that one. Now for teachers and parents, similar, but you may take a different approach. You might not want visual per se for teacher and parents, because you're not teaching them, you know, chats and those kind of things. So the best one you might want for a teacher, like for example, when you go to a PTA meeting, you know, a parent-teacher conference or something like that, normally it's oral. At first, they're gonna send a letter to say you're needed at the school. So you're gonna come, and when you get the letter, or most likely it's a letter, you give the child a letter to take home, and then when you reach, you might have a oral communication where you talk face to face with the parent about the student and whatever else issue you might want to deal with. So that one, once you explain it properly, you should be able to fully understand what is what, and you get easy 3 marks for each of those questions. You know, the methods of communication. That's 20 marks. Number 2 is done, 20 easy marks. Number three, we have define the term entrepreneur. Now this word you would have learned from your first time doing POB right to the very end. Entrepreneur, entrepreneurship. Who or what is an entrepreneur? Now an entrepreneur is someone who takes the financial risk, or they undertake the financial risk to start their own business. Alright, it's a simple, no textbook definition. Someone who undertakes the risk to start their own business, that's an entrepreneur. So if you want to go with a textbook definition though, you have it here. Enterprise is the ability to organize and manage the production of goods and services, and so it is important it's an important factor of production. Now, people who have enterprise and use their skill to organize production are entrepreneurs. They are the people who take the risk and decisions necessary to make business run successfully. So the entrepreneur is a person who undertakes the risk involved in starting their own business or starting a productive unit or something like that. That's an entrepreneur in a nutshell. Now, this one here asks now, state 2 advantages and 2 disadvantages of being an entrepreneur. 2 advantages and 2 disadvantages of being an entrepreneur. So, one advantage of being an entrepreneur is that you basically you can control your financial life, you're basically to become financially independent. One of the rewards of being an entrepreneur, the reward of entrepreneurship is a profit. So that's one advantage. You get a profit from your risk. You took the risk to become an entrepreneur, and if you're successful, your reward would be a profit. And so some people would see this as an advantage because all the profit belongs to you as the entrepreneur. Also, you get to control. You can basically control how much money you might want to make based on the business that eventually you go into. So you can basically control your financial life. Also, next advantage is that it can lead to a sense of self-fulfillment or self-actualization, where you feel good about starting your own business. You're the boss, you're your own boss, nobody tell you what to do. So you feel good because you are the one in charge, you're the one in charge. So that's another advantage of being an entrepreneur. So 1, if you're successful, you earn a profit and the profit is yours. 2, you feel self-fulfilled, self-actualization because you own your own company, you feel good about that. 3, you have some sense of financial control. You can control your life financially because you can basically plan how much money you want to make based on the business. So all those are reasons you might want to become an entrepreneur, and those are advantages of becoming an entrepreneur. Your own boss, do your own thing, make your own money. So those are advantages of being an entrepreneur. Now disadvantages now. 1, responsibility. You are the one who's responsible for you, yourself, and your workers. They are the ones, they look up to you. They expect at the end of the week, at the end of the month, you are going to pay them, and you are going to make sure that they work in an environment that's safe for them. Some people cannot take on that greater responsibility. So that's a disadvantage right there. The responsibility can be great. Next disadvantage is that if you're not successful, then you ain't got no money. You ain't earning an income. So some people prefer the security of, having their paycheck secured monthly. Somebody paying them monthly. You work for government, work for a firm, you're getting the money monthly. But if you are an entrepreneur on your own out there and you're not successful, then you might not be able to know where your next paycheck is coming from. So you might be one starving until you catch a break or your company hits stuff successfully. So those are some disadvantages. 1, you have a lot of responsibility for yourself and your workers. 2, your income is not as secure. If you're not successful, you don't have a secured income. You don't know where your next paycheck might be coming from. So that's a disadvantage of being an entrepreneur. So yeah. Our next advantage I can add is that when you're an entrepreneur, you're basically in charge of your work life. So you can, maybe to your detriment, you can go away when you want, close when you want, open when you want, do what you want. You're your own boss. So your work life, you have control of your work life. That's another advantage right there. All right, B. Identify 4 characteristics of an entrepreneur. 4 characteristics of an entrepreneur. And here we have a bunch of characteristics of the entrepreneur. 1, creative and innovative. 2, flexible. 3, problem solving. 4, people oriented. 5, goal oriented. 6, persistent and persevering. And 7, taking calculated risks. So those are characteristics of the entrepreneur. And we're not going to go in depth because they just say identify. So you just have to list 1, 2, 3, 4 and you're good to go. So the 4 again, more than 4, you have creative and innovative, flexible, problem solving, people oriented, goal oriented, persistent and persevering, and they are risk takers, calculated risk takers. So that's it for that one. All right, moving on. Then we have identify two problems faced by entrepreneurs. Two problems faced by entrepreneurs. So, there are many problems faced by entrepreneurs, especially when they're just starting out, but they only actually identify two and outline one way in which any one problem identified above may be resolved. So be smart here and just identify things that you can explain in the one after. So, of course, an obvious one would be accessing funds, accessing money, accessing capital. So, capital or monies, funds would be a problem faced by most entrepreneurs. So that's a problem right there. Capital. And next one would be self-doubt. You know, something you might be considering, you're just starting out, business might not be making any money, and so therefore you might be doubting your ability to be a boss, to be an entrepreneur. So that's the next one. And next problem would be, of course, hiring the right people, hiring good people. That's a problem. Finding good workers or finding the appropriate workers. That's the next problem that entrepreneurs would face. And next big problem entrepreneurs might face is managing their time. So time management is an issue that entrepreneurs can face out there. And the next one, I'll give the last one of many, delegating tasks. That's a problem entrepreneurs face. They're sometimes afraid to let go the reins and delegate. They want to do everything themselves. So choose one and identify how you might resolve that problem. So capital, for sure. To resolve the capital issue, you would want to go and seek funding from maybe, a bank, a credit union, family, friends, your savings, whatever. So you have to go and access and seek funds. So if you have a problem, you have to go and find ways to seek funds, whether you go for a loan, a grant, or something. So that's your job. You have to make sure you find the funds. What about self-doubt? What if you feel as though you can't do it? And that is where you have to be, you have to persevere. You have to be confident and you have to persevere and be determined to put yourself through this thing. You start your business and you have to be able to say, okay, I'm going to get this done, and make sure you have a good support system around you to help you to boost you up and stuff like that. So that's the next way. What about time management as a problem? Of course, as an entrepreneur, you have to be able to manage your time effectively. And so therefore, you might want to do things like, make proper budget, make proper schedule, create lists, create goal lists and stuff like that. Create a daily task list and you make sure you stick to it and you get it done within the time that you put ahead. So you have to plan early, you have to plan in order to get your time management down properly. And of course, you have delegating, where you have to trust the people around you, and so you would want to give them the authority to do certain tasks and not be micromanaging them all. You have to trust those that you employed. And you have to, and also in screening, to find good people, you have to screen them properly. So if you put out the ad, say, you want people to do a certain job, first and foremost, you have to be specific so that you don't anybody just come in and, apply for it. You have to be specific so you can choose carefully and properly. And so those are problems and solutions for said problems. Alright, C. Last big one there for that section, 20 marks, 6 marks. Explain two ways in which entrepreneurship benefit an economy. And this one is relatively easy. And so, of course, you are going to choose ones that that you can explain, because there are many different, ways the entrepreneurs help the economy. So you have to choose one that you can explain. For example, there's a few here. You have collaborating. That's one. Right, so entrepreneurs work with many organizations when they create new businesses or expand existing ones, including suppliers of materials and equipment, banks, and recruitment agencies. So the entrepreneurs, they collaborate with. So you might have heard about public-private partnerships, where the private sector entrepreneurs collaborate with the government to train workers, train people, carry out workshops, those kind of things. So the entrepreneur helps the country, because when you're making the profits and stuff like that, you want to give back. And so therefore you want to build the economy, build the community. Some entrepreneurs actually adopt a community, look after the community, because that's where they are situated. So you have to collaborate with both the private and public sector, and of course that helps to build the economy on a whole. You know, recruitment, financially, those kind of things, collaborative efforts. Then you have risk bearing. That's the next way in which the entrepreneurs help the economy, because it's not everybody is going to up and take a certain risk. The government is not going to invest in certain enterprises. So because we have people out there thinking about, you know, risk they can take to generate income, start a new business. You have new businesses coming up. You have companies exploring different avenues, areas that the government just might not take the time to do. For example, they invest their time, energy, and often their money in the business with aim in creating wealth. There is a risk that they can fail, of course, but that's what we call risk taking. So risk taking, risk bearing, they are the ones who take the risk to start certain businesses that might otherwise not have existed in the economy. Of course, you have providing goods and services, an obvious one. These last two are very obvious. Providing goods and services to satisfy citizens, and of course job creation, creating jobs. Clearly, entrepreneurs are the ones who provide certain goods and services that persons within the economy can take advantage of. You know, banking sector, transportation sector, technological sector, you know, gas, you know, the petrochemical sector, those things, the fast food joints, those kind of things. If you look at how places like North Korea or Cuba, those communist people where, you know, entrepreneurship isn't really flourishing, their options, their goods and services available to citizens are not that robust. They are not that, you know, in high demand. But in the market economy, the mixed economy, you see entrepreneurs have the ability to create certain goods and services that the government might not otherwise provide. So, obvious one, provision of goods and services to satisfy the citizens. The car you drive, the food you eat, those kind of things. And the next one here, creating jobs. That's the obvious one. That one you can go to town on. Job creation. Entrepreneurship leads to the creation of jobs, and that in turn help the economy because people get a paycheck, you get money, and money flows through the economy. It's a cycle. So you create a job, you hire people, they get paid, they take that money, spend it on other things, and so the cycle continues. And of course, entrepreneurs lead to or contribute to nation building, as I said earlier. You know, you have companies, big companies giving back. You know, they sponsor students. They give them their scholarships and those kind of things to help to reduce poverty in the area. So they also, because of the global nature of business now, you can actually have a little diplomacy happening based on business alone, and that's because of the entrepreneur starting the business. So you might have an entrepreneur in, let's say, Trinidad, and they have links to somebody in, let's say, the Middle East, Abu Dhabi, Dubai, something like that, and so you have that the diplomacy being linked between companies. So that's part of nation building. So let's read what the textbook have here. Business creation and expansion support economic, social, and political integration and development within a country in the following ways: collaborating and trading with local, regional, and national organizations, providing incomes and employment, which helps to reduce the levels of poverty and crime. And you have more here: trading workers with new and enhanced skills, taxes on wages and profits help to fund government. That's the next one, right? So even if you don't want to put it under that umbrella, you can break it down and say that, you know, entrepreneurship leads to increase in taxes for the government, and the government can take the tax to further enhance the economy, the country, you know, stuff like that. So you can go to town on this one, choose whichever one you want, from collaborating, risk bearing, providing goods and services to satisfy citizens, job creation, and contributing to nation building. You can choose one and you go to town explaining in your own words, of course, what that is about. So we'll stay here for now because I don't really want this to be a 2-hour video or anything like that. So we'll stay here for now. So we would have completed section 1 of the January 2016 Principle of Business paper, POB, and we are going to pick up next time in part 2. We're going to pick up right from section 2. So the only way for you to know what happens next is to, of course, like, subscribe, and click the notification bell to know that when Learn SKN would have dropped another video for this January past paper. Remember, exams are coming soon, so you have to be prepared. So yes, we're gonna stay there for now, and that's all for here. Thank you for watching.